product provided by Nintendo. The last big Nintendo release of the year is out. The same goes with all Zelda anniversaries and releases, of which only Skyward Sword got an HD remaster on the Switch, while Zelda 1 and 2 had to satisfy with being re-released on the Zelda Game & Watch. And with it, we believe it is time to do a brutally honest review of the Zelda 35th anniversary itself, with multiple scores tied to what we currently have gotten, and others depending on what we'll see at the Game Awards. So let's go through it all from February to December 2021. But first, be sure to smash that like and subscribe buttons for free, as our push for 300,000 subscribers continues, plus notification bell to not miss any upcoming videos. Starting with the February 17, 2021 Nintendo Direct. The first full-blown Nintendo Direct in over a year, right before the Zelda 35th anniversary started, and it did not disappoint. With the announcement of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity paid expansion, before series producer Eiji Aonuma himself showed up and said this.
I'm sure a lot of you saw me and thought there might be news about the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild game. Unfortunately, we don't have anything to share right now. While you're all waiting, however, this Legend of Zelda game will be coming to Nintendo Switch. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD.
Or in other words, you expected Breath of the Wild 2, but it was I, Skyward Sword. HD'd for my 10th anniversary, launching in mid-July with improvements to many of the most frustrating things about me, and hey, we got these very sexy Zelda Skyward Sword Edition Master Sword and Hylian Shield Joy-Cons, perfect for the returning Sword and Shield motion controls and brand new button-only controls alternative. Plus, you will get more Zelda sequel footage later this year. The Zelda 35th anniversary section of the Direct was great, with the reveal of Age of Calamity's expansion pack, a long-awaited HD remaster, and the first piece of Zelda hardware on the Switch. No Zelda bundles yet, but Joy-Cons were the first step in the right direction. Oh, and a promise from the chief developer of seeing the sequel to Breath of the Wild during this anniversary. A solid 90 out of 100 there. Between then and the E3 2021 Nintendo Direct, we also got the announcement of the Skyward Sword Zelda and Loftwing amiibo, as we anticipated a big Zelda blowout at E3. And even when E3 was a little later than usual, at the end of the first E3 Direct since 2019, we got much of what we wanted, as the entire final 6-minute section of the Direct was dedicated to Zelda. Starting with Age of Calamity DLC Pack 1, which finally got a proper trailer and June 18 release date. Then series producer Eiji Aonuma literally took over as host of the rest of the Direct, detailing the content of Age of Calamity DLC Wave 1, before leading us through a brief reminder that Skyward Sword HD was coming out with its gameplay refinements in mid-July. Keeping things brief before at last recognizing the 35th anniversary of the Legend of Zelda series and pulling out the Zelda Game & Watch.
The original Legend of Zelda game reaches its 35th anniversary. While we don't have any campaigns or other Nintendo Switch games planned, we've been working on this Game & Watch system as a special item to help mark the occasion and reflect fondly on the earliest days of The Legend of Zelda.
This statement alone pointed to that the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild would not come out during the 35th anniversary, which was further confirmed by the 2022 announcement in the second teaser trailer, and producer Eiji Aonuma's subsequent statement.
This time around, the setting for the adventure has been expanded to include the skies above Hyrule.
In a combined adventure with multiple different combinations to most of the features found in Breath of the Wild. The 4-announcement Zelda combo would have been another 9 out of 10 if it wasn't for one missing detail. The title of the sequel to Breath of the Wild, remaining unannounced over 2 years after its initial reveal at E3 2019, and that along with
aiming for a 2022 release, so I hope you'll look forward to it.
Instead of a set-in-stone 2022 release, brought this presentation for me personally down to an 8 out of 10. And I will explain to you why. Since no title is a great detriment to the hype and marketing, and it is rather clear that this will be a late 2022 title based on the official statements, but Bill Trina's latest statement about the mystery of the title and the probability of seeing the game over the next months to the next year brought optimism into July, along with the first DLC wave of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity in late June, though that first one was a little underwhelming compared to what was still to come in July and beyond. We first saw Breath of the Wild sequel being marketed within the reveal of the Nintendo Switch OLED model, even though the best Nintendo Switch model so far would not release on the same day as any Zelda title. Rather, with Metroid Dread breaking the Zelda Switch hardware tradition seen in 2017 and 2019. Despite the hype for OLED in October, most Zelda fans cared only about one thing in July, right after the July 6th reveal of the third member of the Switch family of systems, Skyward Sword HD, coming out exactly 10 days later. Now, this is the only Zelda release this year that we have done an individual brutally honest review for, where we praise the gameplay improvements such as the dual analog camera controls, skippable cutscenes during the Skyloft opening, other quality of life improvements while still seeing some old and new issues. Overall though, a definitive edition of Skyward Sword in proper 1080p HD 60fps Full HD, and that feat as the first Zelda game ever on a Nintendo system landed at a strong 85 out of 100 from us, and the Skyward Sword Zelda Joy-Cons are a solid 90 out of 100. Only downturn is that they still could suffer from Joy-Con drifting. So let's say an 87 out of 100 was the score for the Zelda 35th anniversary in my eyes after the launch of Skyward Sword HD. It is just that after July 16th, things went silent again for Zelda until the September 26th Nintendo Direct, and even then it was only a trailer for the October 29th Age of Calamity DLC Wave 2 Guardian of Remembrance. But the week before that, we got the greatly embarrassing emulation of the Ocarina of Time for the overpriced Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack. And this lack of effort to one off, if not Nintendo's highest rated game of all time, was definitely not something Zelda's 35th anniversary needed. Luckily, Age of Calamity Guardian of Remembrance allowed us to forget about that technical disaster the same week. What was positive is that we got this last DLC before the originally planned November drop, but it wouldn't surprise me if this change was tied to not being too close to the Zelda Game & Watch release on November 12th. The 8 new story missions were good, the 2 new playable characters a solid addition to the roster, and the final cutscene after all the extra chores was the perfect conclusion to Age of Calamity. With some technical issues aside, it was worthy of an 80 out of 100, much like the original game, but with the first DLC which was more meh, I would give the entire expansion pass a 75 out of 100. There wasn't much to scream loud about, though it had its moments, much like Breath of the Wild's expansion pass in 2017. Now then, as we're entering November and the release of the Zelda Game & Watch, the dedicated 35th anniversary Nintendo celebration, the celebration itself sat at an 83 out of 100. So what do I think of the Zelda Game & Watch? It is a great way to relive the simplest Zelda adventures without the Master Sword, though it is definitely not for everyone. Though I'm still glad that I have it thanks to the opportunity of replaying Zelda NES on a dedicated collectible Zelda device which only plays 8-bit Zelda titles. One that will forever remind me of this 35th anniversary. Playing on a Game & Watch NES Game Boy button layout is perfect for all of these 4 experiences, as they have a great novelty to them which reminds us that all origins, both in life and in the video game industry, are simple, and that a very long quest lays ahead towards the Golden Peaks. These games remind us that Zelda also had humble origins, but despite being cryptic, and in the case of Zelda 2 notoriously difficult, it also had great ambition. Creating a franchise which a little over 5 years after its infancy will bring the timeless Triforce of the Gods, in the West a link to the past. And though I will play the Nintendo Switch HD remake of Link's Awakening any opportunity over the black and white original version, it is good from time to time to remind yourself of the original and why Link's Awakening Switch is such a good remake, a modernization of a title with one of the Zelda series' greatest plot twists to date. Having a Zelda clock is equally as awesome, and that this one along with the bonus 4th game are all interactive within a durable piece of hardware makes a Zelda Game & Watch a worthwhile purchase even at its price, because it is a collectible, the closest we got to Zelda 35th anniversary souvenir, and that alone makes this an 80 out of 100 for me. If this was a little cheaper, I might have even considered a high 80 score or maybe even a 90. So here we are with a score of 81 out of 100 for the Zelda 35th anniversary, and the only thing that can change it is the Game Awards 2021. Naturally, that one takes place or has taken place after the upload of this video, which was specifically made so that we have time to cover whatever Zelda reveals are world premiered there. But here is my take on what score I will give depending on Nintendo's showing at the Game Awards. Zelda Wind Waker HD plus Twilight Princess HD reveal will get an 83 out of 100 from me, bringing the overall Zelda 35th anniversary score to 82 out of 100. With these, we will likely not get Breath of the Wild sequel at the TGAs, and might risk with an early 2022 release that Breath of the Wild sequel gets pushed further back. If instead Breath of the Wild 2 is there, then a new proper trailer will bring the TGA score to 90 automatically. If we also get gameplay, we're up at 95, and if we on top of that get the actual title of the game, then we're up to a perfect 100. So there's absolutely nothing else we need to see as we enter 2022, the 5th anniversary of the launch of Breath of the Wild. So if we see any Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 at the Game Awards 2021, then we can change the final score for the Zelda 35th anniversary from 81 to 85, maybe even higher than that, and at the very best, 90 plus for the complete anniversary. But what do you think about Zelda's 35th anniversary, the different releases, and the treatment of Breath of the Wild sequel this year by Nintendo? Sound off in the comment section down below. If you haven't already, be sure to press that like and subscribe buttons, as it greatly helps us towards 300,000 subscribers, and the same goes for pressing that notification bell and again for all notifications, all completely for free. Finally, a big thanks goes to all our patreon.com/CommonRealm patrons, and in particular to royal producer Charles Shash. You rock, and please enjoy one or both of these 2 awesome videos.